Ravi Kumar. So we already doing a lot of episodes in Splunk interview questions. Today we are continuing and we are going to new question and answers. So this is Ravi Kumar. Yes, let's start the questions today. So difference between single site and multi-site indexer clustering. How does Splunk manage data retention policy? Difference between configuration files and runtime settings. How do you check Splunk service status and restart safely? What are the inputs.conf file and outputs.conf file used for? What is Splunk in SPL in Splunk? So it seems very basic, but very important. Why? Because some of the interviews, they mostly covered a basic questions only. So high level questions, they won't covered. They only covered on basic questions. So that a lot of interviews I faced these questions. So most important questions. So first, difference between single site and multi-site clustering, indexer clustering. Single site means all indexes in one data center, data replication within one site. Multi-site means indexer distributed across multiple data centers, replication across the sites for disaster recovery. Let's say, for example, you have one indexer here. This is another indexer. This is another indexer. So this can be maintained with a one single site. This is a single site clustering. Single site cluster. So that all your servers, storage servers are in one site, one data center. Let's say, for example, Mumbai. In Mumbai data center, all the servers will be there, so that the data is replicated each other like this. The data is replicated within this data center itself. Within this data center itself. Within this data, so that if an indexer will fails also, still you'll get a data in other indexer. If another indexer fails also, still you'll get a data in other indexer. That means within the one data center, okay, you are maintaining a replication copies, means that will be considered as a single site clustering. Single site clustering. If it is a multi-site clustering, so your data will be maintained in the two sites or multi-sites. Say one center is in Mumbai, one center is in Hyderabad, one center is in Singapore. Like multiple sites it will be maintained. And here the data was replicated with site replication. Site replication factor will be applied, sir. Site replication factor will be applied. Instead of replication factor and such factor, in the multi-site clustering, site replication will be happened, sir. So that your data in the site 1 will replicate to site 2. Or the data will be replicated to site 3. This will be happened, sir. Site 3. So that if one data center fails also, still you will get the data from the another center. See, simple, sir. In the AWS cloud, for example, any clouds, for example, there are two types of failures are there. One is soft failure, and other one is hard failure. Soft failure means, for example, there is a data center called Mumbai. In Mumbai, you are maintaining some 100 GB data in one storage, in one zone 1, for example. Okay. If zone 1 fails, still you will have a 100 GB availability in zone 2. If zone 2 fails, still your data is available in zone 3. Why? Because Mumbai center will support for 3 zones. That means they will replicate the data in zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 like that. So that one zone fails also, still you will have a data in another zone. Second zone fails also, still you will have a data in the other zone. This we call it as a soft failure. Okay, within the data center, if any zone fails, still you are getting a data, that we call it as a soft failure. For example, if Mumbai center got failed, entire zones got failed, no problem. Still you have a data in Hyderabad. Failure means anything, cyclone hitting or whatever it may be. Hyderabad also zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 will be there, but you are not going to maintain data in all 3 zones. One zone you will maintain. Why? Because for the hard failure, you have a still copy here so that you can search your data. So this we call it as a hard failure, hardware failure. So same, sir. Software failure we call it as an indexer clustering. Hard failure we call it as a multi-site clustering. Both will support. Okay, so it is not one site, sir. You can create multiple sites also, depends upon the requirement. That is called a single site and multi-site. Now, how does Splunk manage retention policy? Actually, we already discussed in the last interview question. The data coming from the different sources will be maintained in the different buckets. Let's say, for example, first hot bucket will be there, and after that warm bucket will be there, and after that cold bucket will be there, and after that there is a frozen bucket will be there, and after that there is a thawed bucket will be there. Okay, so whereas hot bucket, warm bucket are in the same path, cold is in the same different path, but both three buckets are searchable. This is not searchable, and this is reindexing bucket. This is not searchable, actually deleted bucket. It is a reindexing bucket. And these are searchable, sir. So that means actually the data coming from the different sources will be stored into first hot based on the parameters used in the hot bucket, like maximum hot buckets, maximum span seconds, hot span seconds. Okay, like that different parameters are there. Based on that, it will goes to the hot to warm, and warm will stores the data based on the parameters like maximum dB count, number of count of dBs. Based on that, it will maintain. And after that, warm will be rolls to cold. Cold means actual endpoint of searchable. That means whatever the data in the hot, warm, cold buckets are the searchable. That means that if you have a retention policy of 6 months, that 6 months needs to be given to these 3 buckets. Retention policy in a sense, how many days you are going to maintain your data into a Splunk storages for searchable. Again, I am repeating, how many days you are going to store your data into a Splunk buckets for searchable. Okay, that means the data in the frozen is not considered as a retention policy. The data in the hot, warm, cold buckets are the searchable. So that the parameters used for this retention policy is okay. So frozen time periods in seconds and maximum time data size in MB. Frozen time periods in seconds means time based. Maximum hot data, maximum total data size MB is a volume based. Both you can give, sir, but wherever which one it will be completed, that will be taken as a first one. Okay, so frozen time periods in seconds and maximum total data size in MB. Once limits are reached, data moves to cold to frozen. At frozen, the data is deleted or archived also. If it is possible, if you want, you can archive also. You can archive in the third party storage is also possible. That already discussed in the bucket concept. Still you have a doubt, if you want to see it as a practicals, definitely you need to enroll for Splunk course in Provoke. Okay, definitely we will get complete practical experience in the Splunk course in Provoke. Now come to third question, difference between configuration file and runtime settings. So very rare question, but most important question to understand. Difference between configuration files and runtime settings. Configuration files like inputs.conf file, props.conf file, transforms.conf file, outputs.conf file, saved such as whatever the configuration it should be. You are defining these configurations persistent at settings level, configuration level, basically configuration level with the configuration file level. Okay, that we call it as a configuration files. Okay, that means you are going to backend and you are writing a configuration with different stanzas and different parameters and values, that will call it as a configuration files. If it is the runtime settings, so mostly UI level, you are doing from UI level. Let's say, for example, you want to create an indexes.conf file. Just go to the settings. There is an indexes. Click on it. Add a new indexer. Add the indexer. That is called runtime settings. Or you can use a command like Splunk add index name. This is also called as a runtime settings. Runtime settings only. So UI CLI mostly call it as a runtime settings. Most of the cases, what will happen? Not all cases, sir. Most of the cases, this will apply temporarily until service restart. So until service restart, it will be act as a temporarily. When the service restart, it will be applied mainly. So when the service restart, then only it will be applied. Sometimes in the practicals, if you try to do from the UI and command line, that is not updated in the configuration file. When you restart the service, then only the configuration will be updated. That we consider as a runtime settings. Now, how to check Splunk service status and restart safely? So the commands are used for, you can go with UI level, go to the settings, there is a server control, there is a restart option. You can use the restart option there itself with a UI level. Otherwise, there is a commands like go to Splunk bin folder, and then there is a Splunk status command, Splunk restart command, Splunk stop command. Always stop Splunk gracefully to prevent index corruption. So that Splunk stop is the command. Understand, sir? These are the three most important commands to check Splunk status, Splunk restart, and Splunk stop, or Splunk start also the command, but it is first time you are using Splunk start. Otherwise, if any stop status, then you will use start. Okay, but most of that cases we'll use a Splunk status as well as Splunk restart command. Now there is a question called what are inputs.conf file and outputs.conf file used for? There are multiple configuration files in the Splunk, but the most important configuration is inputs.conf file and outputs.conf file. Basically, inputs.conf file will be mostly on forwarder level and indexer level. Forwarder component level inputs.conf file is different. Indexer component level inputs.conf file is different. For example, forwarder level input configuration will be like this. Forwarder level inputs will be like this. Inputs.conf file. So monitor stanza, what data you want to monitor, and log file path, and then index name, source type name, host name, whitelist, blacklist. Whitelist means yellow, blacklist means restrict, and also segment in the path. So host segment, and ignore older than parameter. And also we have something like what we can call persistent skew. Like multiple options are there, sir. Even if you write a scripted inputs, okay, the stanza will be script, okay, colon something like different stanzas will be right like this. Okay, scripted inputs means script inputs will be there. Script colon path of the script, index name, source type name. Okay, like that you have something like that. Okay, apart from this, there is a outputs.conf file. Outputs based on the requirement only, sir, outputs.conf file. But if you have a one server in the indexer, so that simply TCP out colon group name server equals to indexer IP colon 9997. This is the stanza we are writing. But if you have multiple indexers, so that we need to apply the load balancer also. TCP out group name, auto LB frequency equals to 10 seconds. Okay, and then a server equals to indexer 1 IP address colon 9997 comma, indexer 2 IP address colon 9997 comma, indexer 3 IP address colon 9997. Like that we can write our stanzas. But if it is a indexer component, the inputs will be, the inputs.conf file will be Splunk TCP colon //9997, and then disabled equals to 0 is the parameter. It's all depends upon the components, sir. But mostly inputs will be written on forwarder level as well as indexer level. If it is a forwarder level, monitor colon // log file path, index name, source type name, host, whitelist, blacklist, host segmentation, ignore older than parameter, or persistence queue, or different parameters are there based on the requirement, SRC salt, CRC length, okay, SRC length, okay, different parameters are there. Okay, but it is too early to discuss everything, but in coming classes we are doing much more input configurations parameters, what parameters mostly used in inputs.conf file, everything we'll discuss. But simply inputs.conf file and forwarders are used to collect the specific data from the specific sources. Let's say, for example, there is a client mission. I want to collect the data from the client mission. Simply we will use a inputs.conf file to collect the data from the specific source. Then there is a outputs.conf file. Outputs.conf file is used to forward the data to some other server called a indexer. Some other server called a indexer. Output.conf file is used to collect the send the data to some other server called a indexer. Indexer component is used to receive the data coming from the different sources with the help of inputs.conf file. With the help of inputs.conf file. Understand, sir? This is about the configuration files. Now go to what is SPL in Splunk, sir? What is SPL? Splunk is a simple basic command, basic question, but it is a certification question. In certification, they will ask you what is SPL stands for, whether it is a Splunk query language or search processing language or simple query language or SQL query language. 4 options they will give. So if you simply say that Splunk query language, most of the people will tell Splunk query language. As understanding purpose, it is a Splunk language, one language, so that you can tell. But actual SPL statement is search processing language. Search processing language is a Splunk query language for searching, filtering, and transforming the indexing data. It is exclusively used to create different statistics and visualizations for the different dashboards. Example like index equals to web log storage, status equals to 500, stats count by host. It will give the statistics count of a particular host value. Okay, so this is the query. So these all important 6 important questions today we discussed. So difference between single site and multi-site indexer clustering. How does Splunk manage the data retention policy in Splunk? Difference between configuration file and runtime settings. How do you check Splunk service status and restart safely? What are the inputs.conf file and outputs.conf file used for? What is SPL in the Splunk? So I hope you will enjoy this lecture. Still you have any doubts, you just ping me in the chat box, or there is some specific description. In the description itself there is a URL. So this is a student inquiry form. So no problem whether you need to join or not, whatever it may be, no problem. But if you have any query, you just fill this form, like first full name, mobile number, mail ID, location, course name, okay, and then submit it, so that the concerned persons from the Provoke will connect to you and try to assist you, so that if you want, so they will make conference call with me also. So definitely I will help you out from any situation. I will be with you. Just enjoy the Splunk. Just you will become a Splunk masters from scratch to advanced level with our interview sections, definitely. So this is a lot of we are going to do lot of episodes. Definitely we will enjoy all, you will enjoy all these episodes in coming future, and we are going to deep dive into more scenario based questions also in coming classes. Okay, so just stay tuned to Provoke Trainings YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. So signing off.